Hello and welcome to Innovation Creed podcasts. And today we are talking about conflicts and conflicts resolution. And what we are going to talk about today is compassionate brawling. And here we want to learn more about the methodologies in resolving conflicts that are practiced among leaders and organizations. Of course, as we understand from from our lives, that many teams, organizations, and whenever a group of people are working together, there are always chaos. There is always lots of conflicts, and actually, to sustain this, people from the beginning of the humanity started putting rules to adjust, conflicts and avoid having these conflicts, and because actually sometimes these conflicts may turn back to be bloody, or actually somehow it may actually cause power struggles. It may cause many alternative challenges that actually can affect the safety and the security of the groups and the tribes that we work with. So in a way, people try to organize and actually regulate these conflicts, and this started from the beginning of the world, when laws were put in societies and policies were put for organizations, and courts were held actually to adjust how these conflicts can be resolved, and actually how they can be maintained across the organizations, the society, and the community. One of our key objectives as team coaches, and while we work with leadership teams, especially in leadership politics, and working with them actually to resolve conflict among the team and actually create an alignment where actually teams can work together in a better way, and actually build better trust, and actually how they can take opportunity in these conflicts to grow, especially that conflicting opinions that may happen occasionally between team members and others, between leaders on the leadership team, may be actually considered a fact where they can actually grow, and it's an opportunity to work through across their conflicts, to work out their innovation. This is where the place of creativity, place for actually getting new ideas, place to disrupt who they are and what they do. And this is something that organization leaders have to work out and have to understand how to work it out. Today, while we're talking about the linear methodologies of conflict resolution, these are actually this actually is something that lots of organizations created policies for. Actually, on a systemic level, when we talk about countries, there is always something like what's called a policy for workers, or employee policies, that are actually protected by law, and this is something that is governed by the culture of the country. And then there is another working policy, which is the culture, and that is coming out of the organization, that is very specific to the organization culture, where how they resolve conflict internally, how they start the informal process, and then go for escalate to a formal process, and then go for the next level, where they can actually go to dispute it out in the courts and in the office of workers, or the bureau of working bureau, or this is something, or the employment bureau, where actually an employee can actually dispute the organization and work out a challenge with them. So these linear methodologies may actually work at some points of time, and sometimes they act against a good culture inside an organization, especially when the conflicts in the informal process are not addressed in a good way, especially when you're not hearing well the other side of the story and where the other person comes from. And here there are lots of models for conflict resolution, and in the end, they boil back down to how the organization and the leaders can actually handle their inner the conflicts within. And here there are many models there that can actually address the conflict resolution and the conflict patterns of the leaders. And some of and actually I'm a very big fan of George Box, where he actually said that most of the models that are man-made are approximations. They are all essentially they're all wrong, but some of them are useful. So what we are making use of is actually that we may take one model to be a handy model to work with the conflict resolution, and what we need to consider is the approximate nature of the model must always be borne in mind, and which is where we want to actually look at. And here I want to point out something related to one of the models that I use with many leaders, which is how they handle conflicts differently. And here Thomas Kingman actually brought up a very an excellent tool, which is an instrument for conflict resolution, which is called the Thomas Kingman instrument, and it's an assessment tool, and it's scientifically researched. It has been used since 1974, and more than 8 million assessments were done. And actually, it tells what is the level of cooperativeness and assertiveness that you choose while entering a conflict. And here, there are many factors that are coming here. We all take the 5 positions that are defined in this instrument, which is avoiding, competing, collaborating, comprising, and accommodating. But some of us are actually have tendencies towards 1 or 2 more than the other 3 or 4. And this comes out of who we are, and it sometimes boils down to our view to the world, our view to the situation, our nature, our nurture, and looking at sometimes other models like personality assessments, like the DISC assessment, like the Enneagram, like the MBTI, may actually sometimes make some sense on the drivers or the fears that are coming in that shape how we look at the world and how we work with our conflicts. And here, working with leadership teams on how to resolve conflict, we have to appreciate and understand the diversity of what is brought on the table and how different leaders can work with their conflict patterns and what makes the best benefit for the team and the collective effort. And here we have another point to tackle, which is before entering a conflict and appreciating these differences and understanding what's happening inside them, each and every individual who's entering the conflict has to have an assertive position on what they want to come out of this conflict. And this is the place where we introduce the inner conflict resolution. And understanding the inner conflicts in the very basic manner in the ancient history, we looked at conflicts, the inner conflict as the good and the bad, this kind of the devilish and and the angel. They're talking to us, and one of them is taking us to the good place, and the other one is taking us to the bad place. One of them is actually nurturing our inner, animalistic mammalian, kind of motivations, and the other one is taking us to the higher spiritual motivations. And this is a very basic abstraction of what happens internally. As we grow older, we find out that we have different inner voices that are working together, and each one of them is acknowledging a part of us that is actually addressing a need or a value or a motivation that we have to look at, or maybe putting a fear in a messenger that we need to actually address and integrate in how we work out. And here, addressing the inner conflicts of leaders is something that we need to actually work out before actually entering the conflicts. You have to set a tone and set an assertive outcome and actually a very direct goal of what you need to do with this conflict and what is the desired outcome you need from this conflict. And here we before entering a conflict resolution and before going into a conflict resolution session, setting goals, outcomes that are actually personal and also aligned with what the organization is needing is something that we need to actually work out and address here. The last thing is actually how we can actually create empathy and connect together. And actually, if we, before entering a conflict resolution session, whether it is formal or informal, or with a coach or without a coach, we need to understand that as much exercise I'm doing for myself, I have to create empathy with other side and actually create an empathy map on how they actually perceive the situation, understand their drivers in this situation, understand what are their motivation towards it, how they want to integrate and look at, the way forward for the organization, how they want it to happen, and integrate this in our discussions with them. And this is where we will actually have a sweet spot where when we address this with empathy, set our objectives, communicate this in a proper way that actually elaborates or integrates who the other person is. Sometimes we need to do some acts like role switching. Okay, I'm taking your side and I'm looking from where you are. Can you actually take my side and see how I'm looking at it? And here sometimes in conflict resolution, actually sometimes switching roles and sometimes switching even responsibilities is a way to come out with excellent results. And here there are many opportunities to grow from conflicts, and I'm a big fan of what Arnold Mendel is bringing, on the table here, where he addresses conflicts as an opportunity to grow. It is like a fire that is set in a village, where people are collected, where elders are meeting there. So this fire is either a way to collect people who sit around it, and come out with the resolution and growth and prosperity and nurturing for who this village is and who the villagers are. Or it may come out as, something that burns the food. You can use it to ripe the food, or you can use it actually to burn it. So it's up to you how to use the conflict and how to perceive it. Always, conflicts are excellent opportunities to grow, and this is something that we offer in Innovation Creed, and it is something that I offer as a service. I offer this as leadership programs. I offer this in leadership politics. I offer this in executive coaching, offer this in team coaching. If you want to have a contact with me, you are welcome. And my contacts are actually addressed in the ticker below. You can actually connect with me at m@sharafeldin.me. And thank you for listening for this 12 minutes or 13 minutes that we spent together, and have a great day.